Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another Google Hangout here, although I'm not sure whether or not anybody's actually going to be, quote-unquote, hanging out with me this time around. I did put the invite out to some people. We'll see what happens. The point of this is less for conversation and more for education. The title is, well, I'm going to TSU somebody. TSU is pronounced sue, so hence the joke. I'm going to sue somebody, yeah, get it. I know. Okay, it's corny, but it grabs attention. So, all right, fine. Anyway, sue or TSU, I guess it really doesn't matter which way you say it. It's a very new paradigm social networking platform. I want to make sure the page is refreshed good enough here. Okay, yeah, there we go. Cool. All right. And there's a lot of questions and concerns about it, which are very understandable. And it's very logical that people would be asking these things. And I just wanted to share my perspective about all of this and answer these questions as best I can. I don't want you to take my perspectives as being any sort of absolute truth or absolute answer. I don't want anybody to hang on my words or anything. As I like to say, believe nothing, disbelieve nothing, question everything. So, that's what we're doing. I don't know how long I'm going to be rambling on about this. It may be a very short video, maybe a very long video. I really have no idea. I have no plans for either direction. I'm just gonna going with the flow and seeing what comes to mind and just loading up into my mind's memory all the various questions and concerns and explaining them as best I can. So, okay, you can see my SUE page here. So www.tsu.co/paradigm shift docs for you, which the paradigm shift docs for you thing was the name of my old YouTube channel, prior to YouTube being like, oh dude, I don't like that, like you're like spreading awareness and stuff, so like and they just like killed it. I used to have over 4 million views on there, over 6,000 subscribers, and they didn't say, oh well, you violated copyright or violated community guidelines or anything. They just slammed me down for no reason, and when I asked them about it, they're doing their absolute best to ignore me. So anyway, there's a part of the TSU FAQ here that gives a very good little graphic that, in my opinion, explains very well how this stuff works, although I am going to elaborate because I know that for a lot of people who are not used to simplicity, who have belief systems that state, oh, difficulty and suffering and misery and overly complex crap is the only real reality. So simplicity gives those types of people a bit of cognitive dissonance, and I'll do my best to eliminate that. You've basically been mind screwed by society, so don't feel bad about any cognitive dissonance that you might be experiencing. It's okay. I just want to check here to make sure. Okay, cool. Now, basically what TSU is doing, all right, all social networking services obviously, tend to have advertisement systems. You can buy advertising, ads are displayed, and of course, like using Facebook as an example, they're a bunch of dicks. They don't revenue share with you. They're like, all the money is ours. Screw you. We don't care about our user base. We're a giant corporation and you can kiss my ass. So TSU is very, very different in that regard because they actually give you 90% of the share. And here's how they split that up. When someone goes to your profile and they don't have an account yet, it will prompt them to sign up if they want to, or they can cancel out of that and just browse the content. But that particular section, I have to switch back and forth between tabs and stuff and in order to illustrate. That section under family tree, it's referred to as children and descendants. So when you hear people talking about TSU and talking about all the new children they have, no, they haven't been, going around screwing everything with a heartbeat and compatible plumbing. They're not being literal here. Oh, I've added 10 children today. Wait, what? No, that's not. It's not what they're talking about. So your immediate quote unquote children, just a terminology, a buzzword. So you got friends, children, new children, network followers, so on and so forth. And so right now, I've got Sammy Broker, Rich Hamilton, Rochelle DeYoung, Connie Fursick, Walter Kelso, Paul Kerwin, Daphne Dugan, Ringlords Official. Now, most of these people are friends and family, like literally, not just like buzzword friends, not buzzword children or whatever, but actual friends and family. Sammy Broker, I met through Facebook as a result of posting about TSU and stuff, but she's become a pretty cool friend, and she's a really cool chick, and she's awesome and badass. Richard Hamilton, I've known for quite a while on DeviantArt, and I shared this with him, and he runs the NASA headquarters group. Rochelle DeYoung, also from DeviantArt, and she does drawing and painting and photography and nail art, and she races race cars and all this really cool exciting shit. So check her out. Her life is pretty interesting. Walter Kelso is my father, obviously, and my parents are divorced, and Connie Fursick is his current significant other, you might say. Paul Kerwin, I have no idea really who that is. I guess somebody who just found me on Facebook or whatever. Daphne Dugan, she's a really awesome friend of mine who I met through my best friend Katarina Edwards. So she's a friend and she's cool, and she's been on at least one Google Hangout with me. I think she was on for part of one and then a little bit of a part of another, but she's been busy a lot. That's why we haven't really seen her on more, and that's why she's not listed under the PSEC personas section on the main page, because there's not really much content to toss into something like that yet, but I'm sure in the future she'll be on more. Ringlords Official, no clue who that is, just somebody who found me. Now, the reason I'm showing you all this is so that when I go back to the diagram, it makes a little more sense. So just bear with me. I'm kind of giving you the tour. So when we click View Descendants here, Sammy has the most descendants out of anybody else on my list here. So, that's why I'm, showing you hers, just so you could see what the interface looks like, graphically, instead of showing up a blank interface and trying to explain what it would look like if something were there. I'm giving you something that's actually there. Okay. So now going back to the diagram here. And it's interesting here that my name is David and my middle name is Brian. You've got David, Brian. So anyway, here's how they divide the dollar, basically. And when people see this, automatically they're thinking, uh-oh, is this a pyramid scheme? No. They're taking a dollar and they're dividing it. You can only divide a dollar down so far, okay? A pyramid scheme uses absolute ridiculous, illogical, exponential math that doesn't work, and the pyramid scheme will always expect you to pay money and try to badger the crap out of everybody else to also pay money. So yeah, this is not in any way, shape, or form a pyramid scheme. There is no crazy, stupid, ridiculous, exponential math at work here. This is all on the level because, you know, your outside diameter parameter there is that dollar. And so you're dividing inward. You're not going exponentially outward into unparalleled levels of stupidity. So this explains how they divide that dollar. And of course, that dollar is variable. You could explain it in terms of how you divide $100 or $200. It doesn't matter. But, you know, they're using a $1 figure just to comply with the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so let's say I'm David because, well, you know, I am. And I wasn't invited by Charlotte. I was invited by Trent. But, you know, this is just the illustration here. So basically, 3 levels back, because it's like obviously Allison invited Brian, Brian invited Charlotte, Charlotte invited David. So if David is the one who, you know, posted the content to his wall, whatever it was he shared, whether it was a journal or a YouTube video or whatever it was, he shared that on his wall. And, you know, so people been looking at that. And, you know, as a result, you know, there was this dollar that was generated by the ad system. And because TSU isn't a bunch of dicks, they're like, all right, cool. We're only going to keep 10%. We're going to give you guys the other 90%. So David gets 45 cents of that. And then Charlotte, 30 cents, Brian, 10 cents, Allison, 3 cents, because Allison referred Brian, Brian referred Charlotte, Charlotte referred David. So this is just kind of fair sharing. And it's also incentive to tell people about TSU. I mean, here's Facebook's incentive to tell others about Facebook. Facebook is popular, man, and anybody who's not Facebook is fucking stupid, all right? Because, like, Facebook is cool, and if you don't like Facebook, you're lame. So, you know, it's like the Harry Potter versus Twilight thing where everybody's just acting like a bunch of fools. So, yeah, they're totally not doing that here. They're giving positive incentive, and also it encourages cooperation. Obviously, if you're David and you know that, or sorry, I've got that reversed in my head. Let's say you're Allison. Yeah, I'm male, obviously, so my first thought isn't to think of myself as a chick, but yeah, you're Allison, and you know, you've got these 3 people in your downline. It only goes down 3 levels. Again, no pyramid shit. You got these 3 people in your downline. Now, let's pretend for a moment that no one was getting paid anything. Well, there's no incentive to promote the content of Brian, Charlotte, or David, you know, and if they post content on your page, you know, you might be thinking, wait a minute, they're trying to like move in on my territory. So what the hell? They're really inconsiderate. Wow, they're bastards. And it would start drama and stuff. So this way, you know, nobody gets pissy about the sharing process, you know. Everybody knows that the more everybody refers everybody else, the more the system grows and evolves and so on and so forth, and everybody benefits, even people who aren't in your immediate downline, because the more people share out names everywhere, everyone's going, adding friends and adding followers and stuff, and it's just kind of promoting a more positive, collaborative attitude rather than this you know, pissy materialistic sort of, no, it's mine, you get away, fucker, yeah, you know. So it's definitely a much more positive and productive environment, and everybody's helping everybody else, you know, not just on the you know, revenue sharing front, but in every other way. It's encouraging better, more open-minded attitudes, to where instead of people being a bunch of dramatic, pissy little fools, they're just more on a chill flow. And, when you talk to people on there, you're more likely to be met with an attitude of, hey, cool, what's up? How you doing? And not like, who the hell are you? Get away from me, you creepy jerk. What the hell is your problem, man? And obviously, those who are swimming in the parts of Facebook that might be, considered to be the cyber ghetto, you might say. In other words, the more dramatic, trolly parts of it, because Facebook almost is like a big city, isn't it? So you go into the bad neighborhoods, quote unquote, of Facebook, and you see somebody being all like, start your own home-based business, or, oh, love and light, I'm a new agey lovey lighter, or praise Jesus, Jesus is a good guy and he loves you. And at first you're thinking, okay, well, this sounds open-minded. And then, you go into the entrepreneurial ghettos, and they're like, if you don't make money the way I say you are, then you're stupid and you're doing it wrong. And then you're like, oh crap, I don't want to be here. So then, okay, well, these new agey lovey lighty people are all lovey lighty. What could go wrong with love and light? So then you find out that they're just overcompensating for insecurities, and they're just not facing their demons, and they're building up all this angst inside of them. So they're only lovey-lighty until you say just one little seemingly innocent thing that disagrees with them, and then they're like, bleh! And they're like treating you like you're the worst scum of the earth. And it's like, all right, so much for love and light. And you go into the Christian or religious sections, like, okay, Jesus loves everybody, so these guys are followers of Jesus, so they must love everybody too, right? And say one little thing out of turn, and you're getting told that you're going to burn in hell for all eternity, and so on and so forth. And there's all these different drama areas of Facebook and other social networks that really discourages, people and makes them kind of paranoid on things like Facebook. So like someone you don't know adds you as a friend, and you're like, all right, who the hell is this? Are they here to cause me problems? Are they here to try to sell me something or convert me into something or force their will on me and in some way dominate me? Or, are they actually just cool and friendly? So there's like that little bit of like nervousness on Facebook, whereas you don't really have that here. The worst things that'll happen to you on TSU, sure, really no big deal, is sometimes you might find a phishing bot that's posting. I don't mean fishing as in like, casting out your line and pulling in the trout. It's spelled PH instead of an F at the beginning. And they will post links that might look like, www. Some fucking crap you've never heard of.com / www.tsu.co, and they'll say like, oh, well, if you have any questions or concerns about TSU, just log in here and go there. And all that stuff is they're trying to harvest your username and password to hack you. So anybody that posts on TSU or any site really that claims to be an aspect of the site, saying, oh yeah, log in here, whether you're getting that on Facebook or TSU or in your email or whatever, never do that. Because any of these sites that have any updates or messages for you or whatever, they will give you those literally through their system. You will be logged in, you will see some sort of, obvious system notification pop up that is a part of the interface, and it's obvious that it is. It's not going to be somebody like literally posting something. So yeah, that's just kind of internet common sense for most people, hopefully. The other thing is you might get people on TSU who are, shall we say, overly enthusiastic and being a bit spammy. So like, have some patience with those people. They're not trying to lead you on to anything. They're not trying to be jerks or whatever. They're just like kind of being like an overly enthusiastic little kid, and they just like, are having difficulty controlling their enthusiasm. So they're just like spewing it everywhere and just textually glomping you and just like, oh, friend me and follow me and this and that. And they're just like, taking that and replying that on every single post you make. And they're not trying to be jerky. They're just really, really overly enthusiastic. So if you encounter that, it would behoove you to just, just politely tell them, like, hey, dude, kind of chill out on that. You can post that like once on one thing, kind of on topic there and whatever. If it's an on topic post, that's fine. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for showing me that you're enthusiastic and outgoing and cooperative and that you might be someone worth talking to. That's cool. But if you, just spam my whole page with that same message over and over and over and over again, you're just kind of being an annoying little douche. And please, you're gonna irritate people. You're not gonna get them to like you that way. So, just kind of be calm with it. Don't jump them and be like, look, you little son of a, you're such a horrible criminal for putting all that on my stuff, and what's wrong with you, and blah blah blah. So, don't do that. That's no. And obviously, if somebody really isn't taking a hint, really isn't getting the message, and obviously, just like Facebook, you can block them, or whatever. If they're just not getting it and they're just stalking you like a jealous ex-girlfriend, then you can just block them, and that's it. Problem solved. So far, I've only had to block one person on here, and it wasn't even a person. It was a bot. It was a phishing bot. So I deleted their posts and blocked that. So yeah, I've only had one little incident like that on here, but everybody I've talked to on here has been really, really extremely nice. And that's definitely something that okay, with me on Facebook, the circles I tend to swim in, most of the people I directly deal with are pretty nice, pretty cool. But, occasionally, I do get a troll coming in or whatever, people being all pissy or quick little dramas that happen that, I typically am able to resolve very, very quickly because I'm more patient than I used to be. But, so far on TSU, I haven't run into any of that stupid, dramatic stuff. I haven't seen anybody trolling anyone or flaming anyone or getting all butthurt about anything or whatever. People have been sharing their opinions and perspectives very, politely, nicely, open-mindedly, civilly. Everybody's been really cool, and yeah, no complaints so far. I mean, honestly. Now, the next thing people are going to run into as they start making a little bit of money on here, they're going to notice that at first, okay, I've been on here a few days and see it says $1.58. I've made $1.58. Well, they're thinking, well, gee, that's not really much. What the hell? You can't make much off of this, blah, blah, blah. You have to kind of look at this in a fractal exponential way and realize that reality is a cake, not a light switch. Okay. So you kind of have to take the long-term buildup into account. So if you take even the idea of making, $1 in 2 or 3 days or whatever, and you expand that math into a month, well, that's something like, $10 or whatever within the month. And I didn't really put any sort of real effort or energy into getting that. I've just been using this, just casually, like a chill flow. So, I mean, obviously, if somebody just wanted to give you $10 a month, you're not going to complain about that. You're just going about your day doing what you're doing anyway. And here's $10. You're not going to be like, oh, well, no, how dare you give me $10? What's wrong with you, you jerk? No, of course not. Somebody gives you $10. Excuse me, you're going to be like, oh, cool. Thanks. That's really cool. So you're going to be in a mode of appreciation about it. You're obviously not going to be offended. Who in their right or wrong mind would be offended by being, given $10? Obviously, not too many people. And, excuse me, I'm just kind of drinking my Dr. Pepper here while I'm talking, keeping my throat from getting too dry. So anyway, now obviously as you get more awareness to your profile. You're gaining friends, you're gaining followers, and maybe when you're posting stuff, you decide to do that little, um, you know you see that you can highlight to share on Facebook and Twitter to bring in more visibility, and maybe you're using hashtags and whatever, and that's also going to increase your visibility and so on. So you know the more that's going out there and you're building your demographic, more and more people are going to be interacting, with your posts. By interacting, I don't necessarily just mean liking or commenting or whatever. I mean, they're going to be dealing with the content. They're going to be looking at it. They're going to be dealing with the interface here. And the more you have that happening in a shorter period of time, obviously this dollar figure is going to build up a lot quicker. And that's just common sense. And unfortunately, in today's society, we have this stupid neurotic mentality that, and I like to use the analogy of planting a tree seed today and expecting a 40-foot tree tomorrow. And then when the 40-foot tree inevitably does not show up tomorrow, it's like, well, I just suck at planting trees. I'm useless. I can't do that. It takes a special aptitude or a degree or whatever to grow trees, or oh well, growing trees is impossible. Otherwise, I'd have a tree today. So growing trees is a scam. It's a pyramid scheme. It's dishonest. There's no such thing as growing trees. Fuck you, And people really do have that mentality. Even though consciously, if they're looking at these ideas just as general concepts, obviously it's logical to most people that expecting it to just rain money just all of a sudden, or expecting a tree to just be 40 feet within a day from a little seed or things like that. When you're looking at it from discussing these things as a conversation topic, of course you can laugh at it because it's ridiculous. It would be like expecting a day to go by in a second or something ridiculously neurotic like that. So the idea of getting all upset and butthurt about the fact that you can't get a 40-foot tree in a day, and a day can't go by in an hour, and so on and so forth, all these varying levels of ridiculousness, when you're looking at that as just general concepts that you're discussing in the form of analogy and hypothetical, you can laugh, and you could see that getting butthurt about something like that would just be ridiculous, so ridiculous that you have to start laughing because it's just stupid, right? But then if you really shift your mind, you realize, oh, we've all been programmed to act like that with everything, primarily from the educational system. They tell you have to work well in excess of your natural pace, which of course logically you add pressure to something, it's going to break. That does not increase intelligence, that does not increase efficiency, that does not make things better. That is like the arsonist setting the town on fire in Ferguson or something, that is destructive, that is neurotic, that makes things worse. But it's what the educational system teaches us to do. You have to work at this pace well beyond your own pace, and you have to do all these things that you're bad at, and you're not allowed to explore anything you're good at. And if you fail, well, then you're just a horrible, worthless, stupid person, and shame on you, and you'll never amount to anything, and da-da-da-da-da. And these concepts get programmed into us in the form of neural networks. You build new neural networks in your brain through practice and repetition, and you get all these counterproductive, low self-esteem, self-demeaning neural networks programmed that overlay themselves onto anything and everything. So you've got this automated fighter pilot training sort of neurosis going on, so that, we're all taught to be irrational basket cases about everything, and we don't even know we're doing it. We're not consciously sitting there thinking, well, I'm bored, so I'm just going to act like an irrational neurotic basket case because, I really just have nothing else better to do right now. It's not that kind of a process. When we're acting like irrational neurotic basket cases from our perspective in that moment, our attitude seems completely logical to us. When we're acting like Chicken Little thinking the sky's falling, it seems completely logical and rational to us at the time, even though it's completely neurotic. So, don't bust on your ass for, sometimes maybe being a hypocrite, sometimes being closed-minded. These are just opportunities for learning. Einstein said that, anyone who's never made a mistake has never tried anything new. He also said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while always expecting different results. And he also said that you cannot solve a problem with the same level of thinking that went into creating the problem. And society only teaches us to try to solve problems using the same level of thinking that created the problem. So we wonder why we're like cats chasing our tails. So, of course, you have to work outside the box. And TSU is one of those outside the box things, or SU, whatever you want to call it. And of course, I find it especially ironic, and like I'll go down here. Here's Trent James, the person who got me into this. He posted a thing about, basically, being entrepreneurial minded. And my comment on it was this. I find it amusing, especially from so-called truthers and so-called spiritually enlightened people, when people who say screw the system think that the only honest, genuine, legitimate, right, logical, functional, practical, reasonable, productive means of surviving in this world is to be a willing, complicit, chattel wage slave to the very system they claim to be against. They say you must sweat, suffer, bleed, and die for these corporate masters, that paying them this worship as our gods and masters is the only honest way to make a living. And they claim that self-employment is a delusion at best and a scam at worst. So they are fighting the system by willingly being its slave and scolding and slandering anyone who makes any effort to be free. How, again, is this not being a hypocritical little bitch? So, and this is, one of those, again, expecting the tree to grow in 40 feet in a day sort of things. The people who are acting like this are genuinely, legitimately oblivious to the fact that they're acting like this, because they have been trained in certain memes, certain fads, certain trends that are ingrained neural networks. So it's just logical to them to just go out and be a slave. And, it is so logical that they're not even consciously thinking about it. It's automatic, like walking. When you're sitting in your chair and you want to walk to the other side of the room, you're not thinking about every little physical process of what every little muscle is doing and trying desperately to keep your balance as you struggle to the other side of the room. No, you already went through that when you were a little baby, so you've got that integrated as neural networks in your brain now. So all you have to do is want to walk over to the other side of the room, and then you find yourself doing it because walking has become an automated process. It's something your body knows how to do already. So all you have to do is want to walk, decide to walk, and oh look, lo and behold, you're walking. You don't have to intellectualize and compartmentalize every little muscle movement about it and worry about whether or not you're going to fall or whatever. You know that your brain already knows how to do that. Well, similarly, we're all stuck in this mindset. We've got it programmed into us that, being the servant of criminal elements in society is the only way to make an honest living. Notice that's always what people say. These words like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with an honest, hard day's work, and if you're not sweating and bleeding and suffering and making yourself someone else's bitch, then you're lazy, or you're stupid, or you're delusional, or you're just a waste of space. And we hear this all the time in society. Get a job. How about no? How about let's create our own jobs? How about let's figure out what we're good at and then do it and make money doing it? You know, this is the type of things that our grandparents and great grandparents, this used to be common sense to them, right? Back in the day, you didn't have all these corporate masters that were totalitarianly saying, here's the jobs we're going to create for you. We're going to fit you in these boxes and you have to conform. You're not allowed to make money being an artist or a musician or a farmer or a this or a that. You're not allowed to go to a trade school. You're not allowed to develop skills. You're only allowed to learn how to take standardized tests and obey and not question and be our little bitch. You know, this mentality wasn't prevalent back in those days. Not really. People went into those sorts of things reluctantly if, you know, like they got hurt and they couldn't do their skill anymore and they were stuck just doing menial little labor stuff because all the really good stuff, you know, their leg got injured or their arm got cut off or whatever it happens to be. Jobs like that were done reluctantly. You know, the idea of groveling to another company, begging for, please, do you have an open position? Let me fill out an application, was seen by our grandparents and our great grandparents as the equivalent of crawling in the dirt and begging the rich people who would pass by in their horse and buggies, please, sir, do you have a penny? I'm starving. So it was considered as that sort of thing, but now it's totally flipped. Like, if you're not a groveling, begging peasant worshiping the corporations as your gods, then you're doing something dishonest if you're not prostrating yourself before them. So we've got this really sick Stockholm syndrome thing that has come over us, and TSU or SU is one of those ways to break that. Now, there are some other concerns. Some, what you might say, are some people perceive this as quote unquote imposed limits, and Kevin Hinkle is like one of the first people on this thing who did, you know, really, really well and knows a lot about it. And I want to play this really short video section of one of his, you know, recent videos here. Hopefully the audio quality is going to be good when I play this through. But I want to show you this because he shares some perspectives on it, and I don't disagree with his perspectives, but I also have other perspectives that are existing in parallel with it. I kind of see his perspective not as the absolute, you know, this is what TSU is. So I know a lot of people are probably going to, you know, like watch Kevin's videos and think, oh, well, he's the TSU master. He's the guru. So what he says it is, it is. No, he's just a dude with a perspective. He's had his experiences. He's got his perspectives about it. And it's completely okay for you to develop your own perspectives. It's okay for you to even disagree with him on some things and look at this from a totally different angle. You know, this guy is not a know-it-all guru. He's not your master. He's not your God. So, and, you know, neither am I, neither is anybody else. So please form your own perspectives. I have some different ones that I want to add to his and kind of mix with his to create a broader perspective of TSU. But first, I want to share this video now, your first day, part 6, your first week with TSU. I'm not going to play all 6. I just want to play this one because he makes some points, and I want to address, you know, the points that he's made because I have a few different takes on it. I don't disagree with what he's saying, but I don't absolutely agree either. I have a bit of a different, you know, there's some similarities in my view to his and some differences. So without further ado, this is a 6 minutes and 31 seconds. Here we go.
Hello there, beautiful people. I decided to do a night video to kind of change things up a little bit, give you some different scenery. So we're on tutorial number 6, I believe, and we are going to talk about some parameters that are in place. It's your first week on Sue, or maybe you've been on for a while and just haven't been that active, and you've set up your account and everything. You've got a pretty good looking wall going. You found a way to get some followers, and you've recruited some children. So you are well on your way to success. Success. That just isn't sounding right, is it? So there's a lot of thinking out there about limits, and I don't look at it as limits. There are numbers in place to guide us to be successful, and that is exactly what they are. So we have 5,000 friends is one of the numbers that is out there. Now think about this. Think about having 5,000 friends. How deep can those relationships be with 5,000 people? Now imagine having 10,000. Now you just cut all those relationships in half. So there's a reason that we can only have 5,000 friends. Why would we want more than 5,000 friends? Seriously. Now, we can only follow 1,000 people. How many people do we really need to follow? I can't keep track of what 10 people are doing, not alone 1,000. So let's get a little perspective on what Sue is doing for us and see it as a positive thing rather than a limit or a lack. Because when I look at those figures, all I see is abundance. And there's a street sign right there that says you shouldn't turn that way. As we're talking about limits and abundance. So a couple more figures. The amount of posts that we can make in a day is 36. So that is, if you don't sleep at all, that's 1.5 posts per hour. Now, I don't know about you, but I sleep a little bit every night, maybe 2 hours, 3, depending on which night it is. But so if you're an average sleeper and you sleep 6 hours a night, then that leaves you with 18 hours of awake time. So you have 2 posts per hour. Now, I don't know about you, but that's plenty. That's plenty of getting your heart out to the world. Now, you can take 8 of those 36 posts and you can turn those into shares. So that's up to you. What I do with those shares is I designate them for my children to get them exposure on my wall, to kind of get their message out to a larger audience and to kind of introduce them to my followers. So if you choose to do that, that's cool. If you choose to do it a different way, that's cool too. But you can use any number of those 8. You can use 1 or 5 or 7, however many you want. So there's 36 posts. 8 of those can be used as shares. Okay, hopefully that's clear. The amount of hashtags that we can put on a post is 10, which again is plenty. If you do any more than that, it's going to look silly and people aren't going to want to read it. The amount of people we can tag is also 10. So you can see these things are put in place so that we just don't go crazy. Now, when I first joined Sue back in October, there weren't any of these in place. And I can tell you that it was borderline chaotic. And so when the limits started coming into place, I was actually very thankful that they were there, because the walls started to get cleaned up a little bit, and all the spam that was going rampant began to kind of slow down to a trickle, and it's pretty much disappeared at this point. So this is what I wanted to spend tutorial 6 on, is just kind of explaining what those why those numbers are what they are, and it's a good thing. So let's not complain about it anymore. Let's embrace it, and let's see it for what it is, and that is setting us up for success. So hope that helps, and as always, I love you and hope you're having a wonderful day or night, depending on which part of the world you are on. This is freaking amazing. The tsunami is changing the world, baby, and I'm happy to be with you all experiencing it. I love you. Mwah.
Alrighty. He made a lot of really, really, really good points. And I want to expand on those a bit. Okay. It is obvious that humanity is going through an awakening process. Now, you don't have to look at that spiritually or esoterically if you don't want to. I prefer to do it, but you don't have to. You could use total old school logic and just, look at the general level of awareness of people now versus like 10, 15 years ago, and then 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. You could definitely tell that humanity is in the process of growing up. Not the societal definition of growing up, because obviously adulthood by societal standards is an extended state of adolescence. It's just extended adolescence. It's chaos. It's crap. It's dysfunction. By growing up, I mean that in a sense of, positive, productive evolvement, not chaotic dysfunction. But so anybody who doesn't have their nose all the way to the ground in denial of the sky can see that there's an awakening going on. And awakenings always, we're facing our demons and cleaning up our messes, and there's a lot of messes we've made. So, there's a lot of quote unquote negative, right? Although I think if you're judging negativity negatively, then that's negative. And if you're seeing the negative as a positive opportunity for positive change, and that's positive. So all these love and light, shun the dark, sort of people are big time hypocrites, because if they're looking at negativity negatively, then they're being negative. Sorry to burst your bubble, guys. Actually, wait, I'm not sorry to burst your bubble. I'm happy to burst your bubble. So go to the Ukraine and Crimea River. Yeah, okay. That was punny. So at any rate, because an awakening process is much like the process of a little baby, going into being a little kid, then an older kid, then a preteen, then a teenager, so on and so forth. Within that learning process, there's various stages of development. And so you're obviously not going to take a kindergartner and, give them power tools and have them, rebuild the World Trade Center or something, that a little kid is not mature enough for that. And they're just going to hurt themselves on all these industrial power tools and get everybody else hurt or killed. And, it would just be a big mess. So you wouldn't do that. Just like you wouldn't, take a 6-year-old and give them the keys to your car and be like, hey, have fun on the expressway. Like, hell no. Provided they can, maybe there's 2 of them. Like, one could be on handle the brake and the gas, like down there, and then, like another one could just be like working the steering wheel as their ride is very short and they crash into something almost immediately and crash and burn. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. It's common sense to not hand your car keys to a little kid and say, knock yourself out, have at it, have fun. It's common sense to not do that. Well, the maturity level of humanity right now, if you look at things that are unrestricted like Facebook, you could see that that's kind of the school of hard learning, you might say. There's a lot of chaos and spamminess and abuse and just all sorts of crap going on. And, if you are of a, mature enough mind, for lack of a better way of saying it, you can navigate that without a problem. But if you're not of a mature enough mind, then, you're going to be a part of the problem. Just like if you could give a 6-year-old the reading and typing comprehension of an adult and then stick them on Facebook, it would be total chaos. Total, complete chaos. I mean, Facebook can be total and complete chaos now as it is. Just imagine how much worse that would be. So, like Kevin was explaining, these limits are set in place similarly to, the limits that a parent would set in place for a child. Now, as TSU as a collective whole grows and matures, and you have a majority of mature adults, and I'm using that as a euphemism. I don't mean literally, like over the age of 18. I just mean, they have a bit more common sense and have done enough deprogramming within themselves, and they know how to conduct themselves in a way that's not about domination and emotional, psychological, energetic vampirism. Once you have a majority of those type of people on TSU, then, and they've gone through enough of their learning processes, and the people at TSU see that they've evolved enough, then you will start seeing less restriction. I'm confident of that. Plus, I also look at it from the perspective of a computer geek because, as right-brained and artistic and philosophical and whatever as I am, I'm equally left-brained and analytical and techie. So, with that, I show you this. AOL 1996, Windows 8 2012. History. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. Okay. So this is an amusing little illustration here. And it also makes a very good point as to what I'm saying. A little bit of back history about AOL so that you really understand where I'm going with this a lot better. Originally, when the internet was barely Web 1.0 and things were not nearly as evolved and advanced technologically as they are now, and everybody and their mother was not quite online yet. AOL and other similar companies were literally charging per minute for dial-up access. Oh, I forgot what it was, like 10 cents or 25 cents or whatever it was, but they were literally charging per minute. Then the whole there's some freaking tongue twister there. The .com boom started to happen because, first, like, cyberspace was mostly consistent of individually run little dial-up BBSs connected through XML networks and things like that. And as these things started to grow in their user base and get paying subscribers and donators and whatever, they connected to ARPANET, or the Information Superhighway, whatever you want to refer to it as, the infrastructure that, before 1978 was only restricted to, governments and colleges and businesses and things like that. They were able to connect to that global live connected, information network. And so they were able to provide that as a service to their users. And they were already charging their users for their BBS stuff, like on a monthly or a yearly or a donation or whatever basis. So now they were able to provide literally the world to their users, and their user base increased exponentially. So they became the first, shall we say, mom and pop ISPs, mom and pop internet service providers, small to medium sized businesses that had, a jillion, telephone call-in lines, and they served their local area. They were not like, nationwide ISPs or anything like that. Even things like AOL had that sort of a humble origin before it like expanded into like a, a full-blown nationwide sort of thing. But, the more that these mom and pop ISPs started rising up and getting bigger, and they were charging monthly, a lot of bigger ISPs started following suit. Like, hey, if we charge monthly instead of per minute or per this or per that, we're going to get a lot more people interested in our service, and we're going to make a lot more money. Well, AOL was one of the last ones to climb on board with that newer sort of paradigm, and they underestimated their own ability to pull in new users, and they made a really catastrophic fuck up, because they decided, all right, well, if we have a lower monthly rate than anybody else out there, then we're just going to dominate our competition, and haha, we're awesome. But they didn't have enough dial-up lines to compensate, and so they got way too much influx, and everybody was getting a busy signal, so like they lost like probably I'd say more than half of their user base, including the new ones. So they were not prepared. And even today, a server on the internet, websites running servers or whatever, whether you're talking about YouTube or Google or anything, regardless of how small or large, a server, a physical computer, can only accept so much user load, so many connections to the server, depending on how much memory there is, how much hard drive space there is, how fast the processor is, how many processors they have, how good the server software is they're running, the amount of bandwidth they have, so on and so forth. And if you hit that wall, if you fill up all those resources and hit that wall, then most people are going to have a hard time using the service at all. You're going to get internal server errors all over the place. You're going to get, service not found errors. You're going to get maximum connections reached errors. It's going to be a pretty nasty situation. So because TSU or SU saw that it was quickly rising in popularity, hence the before mentioned spammers and chaos and so on and so forth that Kevin was talking about, not just from the common sense of, okay, people need to learn how to conduct themselves, so let's treat this like going from kindergarten and up the grade, so to speak, so people can learn. Not just that, but purely from a technical, left brain, physical computer server sort of perspective. If you got too many people rushing in, shit's going to crash, because every time someone follows somebody or adds a friend or posts a comment or shares a post, any sort of activity, that is adding to server loads. So as all of these, like Kevin was saying, all these idiots were coming in and doing all this spammy stuff, server loads were starting to increase. And, the people over at SU saw this, and it's like, oh boy, we really don't want to pull an AOL now, do we? So these limits that are imposed, these quote unquote limits, are not simply just about assisting their user base to mature emotionally and psychologically and learn how to cooperate with each other. It's not just that. It's also about computer hardware. And So as they gain more users and make more money and so on and so forth, they're going to be able to upgrade their bandwidth, they're going to be able to upgrade their hardware, they're going to be able to upgrade their server software. And as those upgrades continue to increase, they're going to be able to handle more server loads. So, slowly over time, I'm confident that you're going to see a lot of these restrictions being slowly increased. Because one, they're going to have the hardware power to be able to do it, and the software power. They're going to have their ducks in a row with that. But two, the other factor, what Kevin was talking about, they have to wait until most of their users have learned to be mature enough. Because if you've got a majority of users that are mature enough to know how to conduct themselves, that's going to discourage the more immature ones, the ones that are just there for trolling and trouble, or to use spam bots or do phishing or whatever, because they're going to find that they immediately get blocked and shunned by everybody else, that nobody wants to deal with them. That everybody on TSU will be so used to a cooperative, open-minded, respectful attitude that, here comes this asshole douchebag, regardless of whether it's a bot or a human. The first reflex of somebody who knows how to conduct themselves respectfully is going to see what this other person is really there for, and is going to block them. So they're going to have experiences where instead of getting added by everybody, they're getting blocked by everybody, and eventually the person who runs the bot, or the person who's just out there to troll, is going to be like, well, screw this site's lame, I can't do anything, and they're going to go back to Facebook or 4chan or whatever dark pit of hell they originated from, and they're going to go do their little trolling energy, vampiric, emotionally, psychologically, whatever their mess that they love wallowing in. They're going to go do that in the places that will allow them to do that, to where that's a compatible situation, and they're going to deem TSU as being a complete waste of time. Like, I don't want to deal with this. These guys are lame. They won't let me troll. They're not compatible with that. These guys suck. So, we have to go through these processes. Now, the other thing I want to address is, what he said about friends and followers, like, meaningful relationships, and how many friends, can you have deep relationships with anyway? Only 24 hours in a day, right? And how many people do you have time to follow anyway? I can barely keep up with 10, and so on and so forth. That sort of thing. Well, within the, shall we say, the kindergarten level paradigm, everything he said is completely and totally valid. But you have to remember, things like friends and followers, when you're talking about online services, those are nothing but buzzwords, nothing but images. What do those really represent? Those represent functions on a piece of software that's residing on a computer, doesn't it? Yeah, it totally represents that. So now let's look at it this way. We are, as a species, moving away from the idea of mainstream media controlling everything, and moving into the idea of taking responsibility. And if we're not creating content and putting things out ourselves, we're able to act as a pass-through or a hub. We share content that we like, or people share on our wall, or people find other people through us by proxy as a pass-through, just because our account exists, and so on and so forth. So we're building a more connected information network. So adding friends and followers is no longer about the idea of the individual, literally making friends, or the individual literally taking the time to follow every little post. And the more you move into this information network sort of idea, and as the consciousness of humanity continues to raise, things get more fractal and synchronistic, and less micromanaged. So then you're understanding as these patterns of information and interactivity emerge that, you know, opposites attract when it comes to two halves creating a whole. Once you've got a whole, like attracts like. So this is just, I mean, this is an aspect of physics. I mean, you know, look at electricity. It works exactly like that. Look at social circles or anything else, anything within that exists within the universe abides by the laws of physics. Humans always arrogantly assume that they're exempt from the laws of physics. The laws of physics somehow don't apply to them because, well, gee, I'm talking about interactions between people. That can't possibly have anything to do with the laws of physics. Really? Really? People are exempt from physics? Really? Really? Come on. It's neurotic, stupid thinking. But it is how we're taught to think. And we're slowly in the process of moving out of that. So as we move out of that and we start paying more attention to patterns and what attracts to what, the less we micromanage. Because then it becomes as common sense as if you're walking along a beach, there's going to be sand, and there's going to be waves, there's going to be water, there's going to be wind. You're probably going to have people out there sunbathing and playing ball and whatever else they're doing. So you're not going to be in a micromanaging mentality of, oh my God, I'm on a beach. Is the sand here? If the sand's here, will it stay here? Will suddenly there be a lot more sand that comes and kills me? Or will all the sand just suddenly be taken away for no reason? Or what if there's nobody else on the beach? And what if there's no beach balls? And you know, all this like neurotic what if worry thinking. You don't have that on a beach. It's common sense to you that a beach is what it is. What else would it be? So similarly, as you know, we start becoming more like pass-through nodes on a network, grains of sand on that beach, these ideas of, oh my God, is the beach going to continue to exist and act as the beach that it's supposed to act like? It doesn't pop up so much anymore. It becomes less and less and less. So then on that beach that is made up of the collective whole of everybody, you know, on that beach you have your interactions, you have your you know, your little beach ball games that might only consist of 5 people or whatever. And you know, just because there's 1,000 people on the beach doesn't mean that all 1,000 people have to interact within that ball game, so to speak. So, and now my phone's ringing, but it's a 1-800 number or whatever. But so yeah, like, so what Kevin Hinkle was talking about as far as like, oh well, all these friends and followers, da da da. That's really the older paradigm that we're moving out of. That older paradigm that just because there's something on a computer that says friend and follow, that it means we absolutely have to put all of our specific attention into all these individuals. And now we're starting to expand into the idea that we're all pass-through nodes on a network. We're all grains of sand on that beach, so to speak. We all make up the beach. And now, because that whole beach exists, it's okay for 4 or 5 people to do their own thing on the beach, and there's all these other groups of people on that same beach that are doing the same thing, and everybody is a part of that beach, makes up that beach. So, you know, we're moving out of that absolutism thinking like, oh my God, if everybody's on the beach, everybody has to interact with everybody, and everybody has to give their specific absolute attention to everybody else, otherwise nothing's going to work. You know, that's still neurotic thinking. And, you know, I mean, no disrespect to Kevin in that, because Kevin is right from the old paradigm point of view. And for people who are still in that old paradigm point of view, they really do need to heed exactly what Kevin is saying about it, because that's where they're at right now, and it's okay to be there. Just like we all start as a baby, and then a little kid, and then an older kid, and a preteen, and a teenager, and up to an adult. It's okay to be at your current pace of development. It's not bad. It doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you horrible. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you naughty. It's completely okay to be where you are right now and slowly evolve at your own pace. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything bad or naughty or whatever. And we are so trained to think that, oh, well, these other people, they're so high above us and can do so much more, and I can't do all that, so that means I'm weak and stupid, and I'll never be a success in life, and I'll never go anywhere, and I'm so horrible and boring, and who would want to hang out with me anyway, and who'd want to deal with me, and what good am I, and da-da-da-da, all this neurotic crap. So we're in the process of breaking out of that, and that is why TSU or SU, whatever you want to refer to it as, that is why this is such an innovative new paradigm technology. But to prevent that technology from crashing and burning before it can even get a chance to get its foot in the door in the world, you know, there are certain restrictions that need to be in place, but these restrictions or limits are to empower growth, not to prevent growth. It's not to be a Nazi sitting there like, oh, here's the restrictions and you have to obey, bitch, our way or the highway, screw you. That's not what they're there for. That's not what these restrictions are there for. These restrictions are there to promote growth, just like raising a child. And as the child grows, you lighten the restrictions. You start eliminating restrictions. You're obviously not going to try putting diapers on a 12-year-old. That wouldn't work. So obviously the diaper restriction is something that the baby grows out of as it goes through its toddler stages and becoming a little kid that's got their, first their little Pampers pull-ups, and then sooner rather than later, they're wearing underwear and using the toilet properly and so on. So that is exactly what TSU or SU is doing. They know that they're in the baby stages and they are acting appropriately. And as it evolves, they will again act appropriately. They will go out of the diaper phase, into the Pampers pull-ups phase, then, into the underwear phase, and, so on. They are going to allow for this natural evolution of a social network because this is something that's never been done before. All the previous social networks have been an all or nothing sort of thing. They open the floodgates, they allow for complete absolute chaos, and these social networks either pass or fail, and if they pass, it's only just controlled chaos. So this is a very new type of thing. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay. If someone isn't ready for it yet, that's cool, that's fine. One day they will be. Especially as it grows as a meme, and as it grows, it'll be taken more seriously by people who were previously closed-minded to it. Just like Facebook was not taken seriously until it got big enough. Twitter was not taken seriously until it got big enough. Hell, the internet wasn't even taken seriously until it got big enough. So, there you go. And Jay Larson has joined us. Welcome, Jay. Jay.
Mic won't turn up.
Sounds like you're having some technical issues.
Yeah.
That's weird. Well, it's not showing you as muted or anything, so the
Google is mute.
Oh, I see it. It keeps your mute keeps going on off 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 on off.
There. Oops. Shit keeps shutting me off.
You're on now. Oh, and you want to know one thing that I just noticed that was a little weird? I've got screen sharing mode on, right? And I thought that automatically pushes it out. And I just noticed it said you were screen sharing. You want to present to everyone, and I had to click the present to everyone button. So I'm for all I know, the only thing that showed up on anybody's screen was my icon, and it wasn't actually showing any of the things that I showed, because before screen share would just automatically put it out and it would work. I never got this this top bar silly stupid thing before, so I apologize if all the other images that I showed previously were not coming up, and just in case that happened, here's the diagram that I was talking about. There's David, Charlotte, Brian, Allison. That's all the stuff I was talking about before with how they break down the dollar. And in the TSU interface here, I was showing the family tree section here. And I was going over the idea of just showing you this interface and how it works and everything. And my apologies if that wasn't showing before. It should be now. But yeah, there's Sammy, Connie, Rich, Rochelle, Walter, Paul, Daphne, Ringlords, whoever that is. And then I viewed Sammy's descendants here because she's got more in her list, so showing you that interface. So here's all the people she has. Sorry if that wasn't showing up before. Because in the past, when I would screen share, it would just automatically do it, and now I flip back just to check on Google Plus to try to help Jay tech out his little issue, and I noticed that green bar at the top and crap, do you want to present to everyone? I'm like, oh man, does that mean I haven't been presenting to everyone? Shit. And then this is the image that I was showing before with AOL 1996 and Windows 8 2012. History. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So, yeah. Now you can see all that stuff. Now that your mic is apparently working properly again, Jay, how long have you been tuned in before you popped on?
About 10 minutes, maybe.
About 10 minutes or so?
Yeah.
All right, well, what do you think of all this so far? I mean, I know you haven't really had time to explore Sue very much yet. I know you were thinking of creating an account for your, to go with your energy, Facebook group thing for the new energy technologies and things like that, but you just haven't really gotten around to it yet. But based on, the last 10 minutes of whatever it is you've heard me say so far, do you have anything to add on the concepts that I was going over?
No, I'm totally blind on it.
Totally blind? Does that mean you don't understand what I was saying?
Well, where I caught you when you began to talk about something on the beach.
Something on the what?
You were talking about giving some sort of analogy on the beach.
Oh yeah, just
That's where I came in.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just talking. It's basically the issues of the collective versus the individual in regards to social networking, because people don't realize that ideas like labels friends and followers, they're just functions on a graphical user interface, and the more we click friend and the more we click follow, it doesn't mean that we are obligated to strictly pay attention and deal with and get to know individually every one of those people. But the more people we friend and follow, it expands the connectivity of the social network as a whole, so that everyone is acting as a pass-through for information, and that helps us to not be so dependent on the mainstream media and things like that, and to be more open-minded to other views and perspectives and information that normally would have never seen the light of day in the old mainstream controlled system. So things like add friend, add follower, that's, it's expanding the network. It's like adding more bandwidth to your internet connection so information can flow through. The internet is not about any one person, focusing on any one person. The internet is a shared network that everybody can participate on in to whatever little or most or whatever extent they prefer. There's no obligation of any particular level of participation. And people are still learning this about social networking. When you had a
Well,
friend, you had a,
well,
you
this
know.
was my idea when I came on to Facebook in the first place. Was basically to create my own alternate news network, where I'd have news from different sources and people bringing it in and sharing what they seen. That's how I got my news. So that's how I built my friendship list up big. It didn't mean I necessarily agreed or disagreed with any of them. It just gave me a variety of input of news items and things going on around the world. It doesn't mean I necessarily believe the stuff that I was getting, but it's raw data, and you do with what you want with it. But the larger your network, the more better off you are at getting a more precise idea of at least how the collective is moving.
Yeah, because you don't have to watch every little video, read every little article. I mean, just scrolling through your feed just kind of lets you basically like take the pulse of humanity and kind of get a general idea. And there's nothing wrong with getting a general idea. You can click into the more expanded details of the things that interest you the most, but there's nothing wrong with just kind of skimming and just kind of taking the pulse of humanity, so to speak. And of course, that pulse is going to be more or less accurate depending on how much diversity you allow or disallow. The more diversity you allow, the more accurate it's going to be. The more diversity you disallow, then obviously misery loves company. So if the only people you have on your list and going through your feeds is people who are paranoid and dysfunctional and always fighting with people and all this kind of thing, then that's really the only thing that your newsfeed is going to reflect. Whereas if you have a diversity, yeah, you're still going to see a little bit of the fighting and stuff, but at least the diversity will help you to be able to understand from a more clear perspective what's being fought about and why. And you can then look at it and be like, oh, okay, well, that person feels that way because they're still within, this or that paradigm or whatever. So in that paradigm, they're viewing things this way, and they haven't learned that, this is over here and that's over there and so on. So they haven't learned to expand their perspective yet. So now instead of sitting there judging them like, wow, they're being a jerk or whatever, you're kind of just you're having a better understanding without feeling obligated to participate, and without always being attacked and vampired on, because you've got all
Well,
this diversity. So there's the nice people there too, and you could choose to deal with the nice people and shrug your shoulders at the ones who might want to dominate you.
Well, the thing is, anything that irritates you, you just go within and you can bring up what you need to bring up out of yourself. That by doing so, you're helping the person that put what irritated you up there in the first place. Also,
Yeah, but in order to do that, it requires being open to the diversity of perspectives, because the more
yeah.
perspective you can view, the greater your understanding is. You move out of that narrow, oh, this is this is that sort of light switch thinking, this or that, and you move more into that whole, everybody's got a piece of the puzzle, and the more pieces of the puzzle you have, the more clearly you can see the whole puzzle. So um, I think that TSU is just, it's a social networking that we've gotten to the point where some things like TSU are allowing ourselves to do that without being obligated to all the chaos. That it's a platform that can teach us how to conduct our diversity respectfully, that it doesn't have to be, vampirism and domination and things like that. Because, like, when I'm on TSU, I see all sorts of things about all sorts of different topics. I mean, everything from entrepreneurial stuff to spirituality to religion to, Illuminati and New World Order and world events and, all kinds of stuff. And whereas, you go through that on Facebook and you see a lot of people just like, just being really hot-headed and panicky and freaked out. But then you go through it on TSU and it's a whole different attitude. I'm seeing very level-headed civil discussions and, people being more calm and rational and asking questions instead of having an attitude of like, well, no, fuck you, my view is right. So I don't really see like that drive for people trying to dominate others here on TSU. I see it as, more cooperative, more willingness to expand your mind. When somebody sees like, maybe somebody's not aware of, the whole, thousands of years old scam of the corporate globalists and all that, and then they see stuff and like, on TSU there's more of a drive to ask a question like, what is this? Why is this? What do you mean by this? Can this be explained better so that I can understand it? Instead of people being like, no, you're a stupid conspiracy theorist, fuck you. Or people being like, oh my god, the sky is falling and the world is ending and panic, panic, fear, panic. I'm seeing a lot more level-headedness with discussing these various topics, and I'm not seeing people freak out all over the place, and I'm seeing, people just ask questions and just go in the direction of really wanting to understand things and share information and, build up from there instead of all this, like, domination and fuck you-ness and all that you might find a lot of on Facebook or Twitter or whatever,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean by that, but uh, I look at like this. The only thing I have a problem with like Facebook is where in my network uh, I get all these ads by someone that's not even part of my network, uh, tagging somebody in my network, and the ad goes onto my news feed along with everyone else's. And that person that actually tagged the person.
Oh, you're not talking about the little like side graphical ads, are you? You're talking about the promoted content. When you're
Yeah,
scrolling through your
yeah,
feed, there's
yeah,
these promoted posts by corporations, and you're looking at that like, why is this here?
yeah. And what it
I
is,
hate that.
yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. The person don't even belong uh, to my network, and they're feeding into my network.
And so Facebook responds by advertising the crap out of you, like, well, not out of you, but just advertising the crap in your direction. Um, you know, the demographic they're pulling it up from has nothing to do with you, but they're presenting it to you anyway, and it just gets
Well,
irritating.
well, what I do, I click it and say that it's spam. Oh, I do. I make a.
Troll the trolls.
Oh, well, it's actually spam because the person's not part of my group. There's not someone in my group wanting to show me something
Yeah.
or like
And I know,
something.
I know you're not talking about, posts from individual humans. You're talking about posts from, like,
Yeah,
Humana, Taco Bell, and what, all these different, like, mainstream businesses and stuff from their pages ends up in your feed when it
yeah,
shouldn't be.
yeah. Because you're getting probably web bots that are doing it. They make friends with people, then They're
Yeah.
actually they're web bots that promote things.
Yeah, that is an incredibly common annoyance with Facebook. Like, you know, I don't mind the little like banner ads and crap. I understand that's a way, Facebook makes money, and that's cool, and it sucks they don't share the ad revenue with us, but I don't mind that stuff. And those are actually generated based on what you're doing, not based on what somebody else is doing. But what's really annoying is, when you're going through your feed and all the posts from other people, and then you see the posts from the corporations that have been injected in there, and they're not even based on anything you're doing. They're based on what other people are doing. It's got nothing to do with you. And you're looking at it like, why is this even here? Go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
TSU, you do not have that problem in your feed at all. That doesn't happen. You don't have advertisements that are pretending to be posts that are being injected into the system by the corporations that are just wanting to dominate your mind. I don't see any of that sort of nonsense in my TSU feed. Not at all. Not ever. I only just see posts from people sharing data and speaking their mind. I don't see any corporate domineering going on at all. So there's a lot of just really really good things about this. And yeah, TSU is a simple service right now. Um, it has a really humble beginning. It hasn't been around that long, but you know everything starts at the beginning. There's nothing that doesn't start at the beginning. So yeah, that's the way I feel about it. So as I was saying earlier, though, and this is another cool thing about TSU is when you give someone your profile URL, like see mine tsu.co/ paradigm shift docs for you. When you give someone that link and they're not a part of TSU, the first thing it does is it asks them whether or not they want to sign up or whether they want to exit out of that and just look at the content. And if they sign up, they're signing up under you, and that is an aspect of the whole revenue sharing thing. Like I was explaining, they're basically dividing the dollar up. You've got you, and then you've got the 3 levels below you. In other words, the person who referred the person who referred the person who referred you in that way. When a dollar in revenue is generated, it goes exactly by this diagram here. Allison referred Brian, who referred Charlotte, who referred David. So David generates a dollar in revenue through the system. So David gets 45 cents, Charlotte gets 30 cents, Brian gets 10 cents, Allison gets 3 cents, and it's broken up like that. It's not like a pyramid scheme with crazy exponential, ridiculous, inflationary math that doesn't work, and no one's asking you to give anybody any money. No one's asking you to push anything on anyone. All you're doing is you're just using the system, and you're sharing stuff just like you'd be doing anyway, and just interacting just like you'd be doing anyway. And it just so happens that you're all getting paid for it. I mean, it's that's all it is. It's just revenue sharing. There's nothing sneaky going on. And I think it's a very fair system because, yeah, TSU is only making 10% of the revenue from the ads, but they are very wisely diving into other markets to generate even more money. They're dealing with other markets that may or may not necessarily have anything to do with social networking or whatever, but they are investing in other markets, and they're generating way more revenue for their company doing that than they would with the ad revenue. And so they're fully able to give 90% of that ad revenue, put it into the service itself, because that 10% that they're giving is that 10% that they're getting is that initial money that they can invest in other markets, and then they get greater profits from those other markets than they could ever get from the ad revenue. So in order to increase their 10% that they are using as an initial investment, obviously that requires more and more people to join TSU, and it's definitely a really good incentive for people to join if you're getting paid for just using the thing. So it's a very intelligent system. It's a very new paradigm system, and for people who are a little skeptical, you got to realize people used to be skeptical when Wikipedia first came up, because people were like, there's no incentive for anybody to participate in Wikipedia. You're not paying people to add entries into Wikipedia. So because there's no monetary incentive, Wikipedia is just going to fail. And it surprised everybody when not only did it succeed, but the idea of a wiki is pretty much like a standard sort of platform on the internet now. People used to think free and open source software would fail, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So you got all these old paradigms that say, no, that's not going to work because this has always worked this way, so that's always how it always has to work. It can't ever work any other way. But that's neurotic. That's like saying if you're standing waist deep in shit, that you always have to stand waist deep in shit because that's always what you've done. And if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. In order to get something new, you have to do something new. So we are trained to be completely psychotic, neurotic, Nazi by educational system, by society, and we're in the process of breaking out of that as we see more and more just how neurotic and destructive our 20th century thinking has been. And so we're shifting in the 21st century to thinking that isn't insisting that we have to keep standing in the pool of shit simply because that's what we've always done. So that's always what we have to keep doing, and there's no other way. Because if there was some other way, somebody would have done it already. But if everybody thinks that standing in shit is the only way to go, then who is this somebody that's going to do something new if everybody thinks that nobody can do anything new? You know? So we're starting to break out of that. Anything to say, Jay? Jay? Hello? Oh, his mic is muted, so I guess maybe he went to the bathroom or something. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. I think I have pretty much addressed everything that Kevin said in this video here, and I think I've addressed the common, concerns that people might have about TSU, concerns and questions and how it works and whatever. So for any of you watching this video off of YouTube or whatever that does not have a TSU account, I'll provide my account link in the video description. Feel free to click it. Feel free to check it out. Feel free to sign up under me if you want to. And if you have any questions, whether you sign up under me or not, whether you have any questions, you can ask me, and I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. You can ask me on TSU, you can ask me on Facebook, you can ask me on DeviantArt, you can ask me anywhere it is that that I have a presence and am approachable. And, you're watching this video from whatever, platform that it goes on that I have access to, and, wherever it is that you're asking a question, feel free to hit me up and ask me whatever about this. I don't claim to know absolutely everything there is to know about TSU or anything. It's a new service. It's evolving. Kevin Hinkle's been on there for a long time, and even he doesn't know everything. There absolutely everything is to know about whatever, but I'll answer any questions to the best of my ability. He'll answer questions to the best of his ability, and I think the only thing I've left to do is just kind of show you the little main interfaces on the main page here. You have obviously, you know, different web links and stuff that you can put in, like my website URL here. It's paradigm-shifting.deviantart.com. I've got my Twitter, 3 Facebook entries, although I do believe one of them was made redundant and I can't figure out how to get rid of the redundancy, but no big deal. YouTube, Pinterest. I don't really use Pinterest that much, but it had a section to list it, so I'm like, whatever. Tumblr, you know. I'm on these places, so, you know, when you create an account, whatever these you have, you know, you could fill that in. Similarly to Facebook, you have a photo section, and it doesn't give you the ability to break things down into albums or anything like that. I'm guessing one day eventually they probably will give you that, but for now that doesn't work that way. But you know, that's not a big deal. Friends, obviously, it shows you who's on your friends list, and you know, if you want to unfriend somebody, you can do that. See, unfriend. And if you want to follow somebody you're not following, you click it and it'll follow. Or, you know, then again, there's, you know, unfollow and that sort of thing. The other peeve I have is that sometimes people who are following you will friend request you, and sometimes it doesn't show up for whatever, like, really weird reason, and I don't understand that. Every once in a while it won't show up. Like, take this one, for example. Morgan, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, sorry, but see how it says respond right here? So I'm going to click that and hit accept, and, you know, now we're friended there. And one little trick that I use, because especially when you start building up a lot of followers, trying to manually scroll through this to figure out what the system has forgot to tell you, to find all the little respond things, can be really annoying. So I do this. Hitting Control F on your browser brings up the page search, right? So I type in the word respond. And now see, it's taken me to the first entry, respond, and I can accept. Come on. There we go. Now I hit to the next one. Here's another one. Respond. Accept. I go to the next one. Respond. Accept. And yeah, so I'm guessing that's a system glitch, because, you know, when you get a friend request, your notifications are up here, so that's a part of your notifications, but I've noticed sometimes it just doesn't give it to you, and then you have to go through this way, and okay, that's being lit up in red and everything, so that tells me that there's nothing else on this page with the word respond in it, so that means I've gotten everybody. And then, of course, it'll tell me who I'm following. Now, when you reach your follow limit, but you want to follow somebody else, like, you know, for very specific reasons. Let's say it's somebody who has a page that on here that you really, really, really want to follow. Or they're like literally a good friend of yours or something, like you know them personally, and you know you want to follow them or whatever. All you got to do is kind of browse through a list of people who you're following, and just kind of check out to see, you know, kind of discern the people who you just kind of like randomly click follow on, trying to build up your stuff, and you know, it's just more like a courtesy ad, you know, so to speak. And you know, anybody who to you from your perspective seems least interesting or least relevant, or maybe it's somebody whose like name is in a totally foreign language, then you go to their profile and you find out that absolutely nothing is in your language, nothing. You don't understand one word of it, they've never commented to you, and it's just, you know, like, what the hell. So then obviously someone like that, it's, you know, you're not going to feel too guilty about unfollowing them, and they're not even going to notice because, like, you know, they don't speak your language anyway, so it's all good. Then you can go ahead and hit follow on you know, those new people that you really, really, really want to follow more. So you have to use discernment on it. You obviously don't want to unfollow somebody that it would be a good idea to, you know, continue to follow. So you have to use critical thinking and discernment with this. But yeah, I mean, you could totally hover over and, you know, there's the unfollow thing and whatever. So, you know, you can totally do that. So when you hit your follow limit, you're not completely screwed. You know, you do have to use a little discernment and critical thinking. You know, that thing that school tells you to never, ever, ever use, because they tell you you have to obey, blindly obey, and do as you're told, don't question anything, fuck you. So yeah, you have to kind of disable that societal mechanism there and go in and use discernment and critical thinking and figure that out. And if you do that with every aspect of your life, you'll be way better off. But yeah. So I think I've covered everything with that so far. I can't really think of anything else to say about TSU that I haven't gone into already. So yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, you feel I need to go into more information about something, or you feel there's something I've missed, or you know, whatever, feel free to let me know. You know, and of course, please, you know, subscribe on YouTube, like, comment, whatever. You know, subscribe on the Facebook page that I have, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I've got all those links on here, and you know, if you're watching this video on YouTube, then obviously the subscribe for YouTube is right there for you. So yeah, and Trent James and Sammy Brocker, I don't know how to verbally pronounce your name, sorry. These are two people that have really been very helpful and supportive with me in my little TSU experience here. So just kind of wanted to give a shout out to them, you know, add them, follow them, whatever. And, you know, check out Rich Hamilton on TSU and, you know, his DeviantArt group and all that stuff. And Rochelle D. Young and her epic badassery with like her little racing videos and her photography and her drawing and all that stuff. And yeah, lots of really cool people up on here. So awesome. Thank you for tolerating this big long rant of a presentation. I'm actually not sure how much time has passed. Wasn't really paying that close of attention to the clock, and the YouTube, Google, whatever interface doesn't really tell me how much time has elapsed. But hope it hasn't been too unbearable for you. Thank you very much for watching, listening, whatever. And I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, evening, you know, whatever it is right now in your part of the world when you watch this. So yeah, thanks. I appreciate you all, and peace out.